Imagine stepping onto the cracked, sun-baked streets of ancient Ugarit. The salty wind carries the distant clang of bronze swords, the murmur of merchants from Cyprus, Egypt, and the Aegean, and the faint perfume of cedar incense drifting from a palace courtyard. One moment the market thrums with life, the next, the stalls stand empty, the walls echo with silence, and an unfamiliar banner flutters where the king's throne once commanded. What force could have erased an entire network of kingdoms in a single generation, leaving only ash and unanswered questions? Some researchers whisper that the answer lies not in a single disaster, but in a cascade of hidden forces that converged like a perfect storm. Could the very seas that fed these cultures have turned against them? In the twilight of the Late Bronze Age, around 1200 BCE, the Mediterranean resembled a tapestry of power. The Egyptian New Kingdom marched under Ramesses III, the Hittite capital Hattusa glittered with cuneiform treaties, Mycenaean palaces dominated the Aegean, and the Canaanite city-states of the Levant buzzed with trade. Their economies hinged on bronze, an alloy that symbolized both technological mastery and fragile interdependence. Yet within a few short decades, the bronze that once glittered in temples turned to dust, and the great cities fell silent. Egyptian inscriptions speak of a mysterious coalition of marauders, later called the Sea Peoples, storming the coasts, while Hittite tablets record sudden famines and internal revolts. The stakes were nothing less than the survival of civilization itself. Who were these invaders? Why did the climate shift? And could an ancient, forgotten technology have sparked both the rise and the ruin of an entire age? From roughly 1600 BCE to 1300 BCE, the eastern Mediterranean resembled a glittering jewel. In the valleys of Anatolia, Hattusa rose as the capital of the Hittite Empire, its massive walls adorned with tablets that chronicle treaties with Egypt and diplomatic marriages that sealed alliances. To the south, the Egyptian pharaohs of the 19th and 20th dynasties erected colossal statues at Thebes, their hieroglyphs boasting victories over the northern lands. Across the sea, the Mycenaean citadels of Pylos and Mycenae displayed tholos tombs and linear bead tablets that listed shipments of oil, wine, and, crucially, bronze ingots. In the Levant, Ugarit thrummed with scribes copying the asterisk epic of Gilgamesh asterisk, while merchants from Cyprus loaded their ships with copper, the essential component of bronze. Archaeologists have uncovered a staggering amount of material evidence that confirms a period of unprecedented prosperity. The Uluburun shipwreck, discovered off the coast of Turkey, carried a cargo of raw copper, tin, glass, and exotic ivory, proof that long-distance trade routes were not only possible but flourishing. In the Palace of Knossos on Crete, frescoes depict sailors navigating open waters, suggesting that seafaring knowledge was sophisticated enough to cross the open Mediterranean. The very layout of these cities, planned streets, fortified walls, massive granaries, and sophisticated water management systems, indicates a level of administrative control that could only be sustained by a stable, interconnected economy. Yet, even in this age of abundance, subtle cracks began to appear. Some climate researchers, analyzing pollen samples from Lake Kors in the eastern Mediterranean, have identified a gradual decline in rainfall beginning around 1300 BCE. This drought would have strained agricultural output, especially on the already water-scarce Anatolian plateau. Simultaneously, dendrochronology studies of ancient oak timbers from Hattusa suggest a series of unusually cold winters, hinting at a possible volcanic winter triggered by distant eruptions. An Egyptian scribe named Amos recorded the years when the Nile ran low and the fields turned to dust. Could these environmental stresses have been the first domino in a chain reaction that toppled empires? The prosperity of bronze also created a hidden vulnerability. Bronze requires tin, a metal that was scarce and sourced from far-flung mines in what is now Afghanistan, the Erzgebirge, and the Iberian Peninsula. Some scholars argue that the intricate trade network that delivered tin acted like a delicate thread. Pull it, and the whole tapestry unravels. If a single route were blocked, entire economies could falter. What if the very success that linked these cultures also made them susceptible to a single, catastrophic shock? The answer may lie in the storm that followed. The first written accounts of the Sea Peoples emerge from the walls of Medinet Habu, where Ramesses III commissioned a massive relief depicting a chaotic battle at the Battle of the Delta. In vivid detail, the relief shows warriors with round shields, long hair, and distinctive feathered helmets, figures that do not match any known Egyptian military unit. The accompanying hieroglyphic inscription names groups such as the Peleset, Shimei, and Laka, and claims that they arrived in fleets of 37 ships to raid the Egyptian coast. Similar references appear in the Great Karnak inscription, where Ramesses III boasts that he repelled the storm of the Sea Peoples that threatened the very heart of Egypt. But Egypt was not the only civilization that felt the impact of these marauders. Hittite archives from Hattusa, now fragmented and partially burned, contain letters that speak of the great peoples of the sea who came from the west and brought destruction to our western provinces. In the city of Ugarit, a cache of tablets discovered in 1928 records a sudden cessation of diplomatic correspondence around 1190 BCE, followed by a layer of ash and collapsed walls. Archaeologists have unearthed a series of fortified hilltop settlements in southern Anatolia, sites like Sinikoy and Karkamis, whose abrupt abandonment aligns with the timeline of the Sea Peoples incursions. Some investigators argue that the Sea Peoples were not a monolithic invading force but rather a coalition of displaced groups fleeing their homelands due to environmental collapse. According to certain scholars, the droughts that plague the eastern Mediterranean could have forced coastal populations to migrate inland, turning desperate refugees into raiders. Others suggest a more sinister motive, that these groups were mercenaries hired by rival kingdoms to destabilize their enemies, a theory supported by the presence of Sea Peoples iconography in both Egyptian and Hittite royal propaganda. Witnesses from later Greek sources, such as the poet Homer, described the wandering folk of the Western Sea who sacked the walls of Troy, hinting that the legendary Trojan War may have been a memory of these larger migrations. The mystery deepens when we consider the technological capabilities of the Sea Peoples. Some maritime archaeologists have identified a distinct class of shipwrecks in the Levantine Sea, dated to the early 12th century BCE, featuring a unique hull design with a pronounced keel and a sail plan that would have allowed for faster, more maneuverable vessels than the typical Egyptian bark. Could this advanced seafaring technology have given them a decisive edge? And if so, where did they acquire it? Some propose that they inherited shipbuilding knowledge from the Mycenaeans, whose own decline left a vacuum of expertise that the Sea Peoples filled. Others argue that a lost maritime school existed somewhere along the Anatolian coast, now buried beneath centuries of sediment. As the raids intensified, the political landscape began to crumble. The Hittite capital Hattusa was abandoned around 1180 BCE, its great walls left to crumble under the weight of time. In the Aegean, Mycenaean palaces such as Tiryns and Pylos show signs of violent destruction. Burned layers, shattered pottery, and collapsed roof beams, suggesting a sudden, violent end rather than a gradual decline. Yet, some evidence hints at a more complex picture. In the Palace of Pylos, a cache of bronze weapons was found deliberately buried, as if the inhabitants anticipated a return to peace. Could some communities have negotiated with the invaders, while others fell victim to outright conquest? When the dust settles on the battlefield, the ground itself may hold the ultimate secret. Geological surveys across the eastern Mediterranean have uncovered a series of massive seismic events that align closely with the timeline of the Bronze Age collapse. In the Aegean, the Thera eruption of Santorini, one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history, has been dated by radiocarbon analysis to somewhere between 1620 BCE and 1500 BCE, slightly earlier than the collapse but possibly setting the stage for long-term climatic disruption. Ash layers from this eruption have been found in ice cores from Greenland, indicating that the eruption injected vast quantities of sulfate aerosols into the stratosphere, leading to a volcanic winter that could have reduced global temperatures for decades. More directly, deep-sea core samples taken from the Black Sea reveal a sudden influx of freshwater around 1200 BCE, suggesting a massive flood event, perhaps the result of a sudden breach of the Bosphorus Sill. Some researchers argue that this flood could have devastated coastal settlements along the Anatolian and Levantine coasts, wiping out agricultural lands and forcing mass migrations. Later Mesopotamian chronicles described the great waters that rose and swallowed the fields, a phrase that could be a lingering memory of such a catastrophe. Drought, too, appears repeatedly in the paleoclimatic record. Stalagmite analyses from the Sorek cave in Israel show a marked decline in precipitation between 1300 BCE and 1150 BCE, coinciding with the period of widespread famine reported in Egyptian and Hittite texts. The Harris Papyrus recounts a series of low Nile floods that led to grain shortages and civil unrest. In Anatolia, the Hittite crisis tablets mention the fields turning to dust and the granaries empty, suggesting that agricultural failure was a pan-regional phenomenon. Adding another layer of intrigue, recent DNA studies of skeletal remains from Bronze Age burial sites in the Levant and Anatolia have uncovered traces of pathogens related to Yersinia pestis the bacterium responsible for later plagues. While the evidence is still preliminary, some investigators propose that an early pandemic could have swept through densely populated trade hubs, weakening societies just as they faced environmental stress. The notion of a Bronze Age plague is bolstered by textual references to pestilence in the Amarna letters, where Egyptian officials complain of a disease that spreads faster than the desert wind. If multiple catastrophes struck in rapid succession, volcanic winter, seismic upheaval, drought, and disease, then the Bronze Age collapse may have been a perfect storm of converging crises. Yet, some scholars argue that natural disasters alone cannot explain the coordinated, widespread destruction of fortified cities and the simultaneous appearance of the Sea Peoples. Could there have been a human element, perhaps a coordinated effort by elite groups to seize power amid chaos? Or perhaps an unknown technology that amplified the impact of these natural forces? The Bronze Age was also an era of remarkable technological innovation. Metallurgists mastered the art of alloying copper with tin to produce bronze, a material stronger than pure copper and capable of holding a sharper edge. Recent metallurgical analyses of bronze artifacts from Ugarit, Mycenae, and Hattusa have revealed a surprising consistency in alloy composition, suggesting a shared knowledge base that spanned the entire Mediterranean. Some researchers have even identified trace elements, such as arsenic and lead, in certain bronzes that point to advanced smelting techniques, possibly involving higher furnace temperatures than previously assumed. What if this metallurgical expertise was more than a mere craft? Certain investigators propose that the Late Bronze Age possessed a form of high-temperature metallurgy that allowed for the production of steel-like alloys, granting warriors superior weaponry. The Ugaritic sword of the king, for example, exhibits a microstructure that modern metallurgists compare to early Damascus steel. If such technology existed, it could explain the rapid military successes of certain states and, conversely, the devastating impact when that knowledge was lost or deliberately sabotaged. Archaeologists have also uncovered enigmatic copper-plated wooden beams in the Palace of Knossos, suggesting that ancient builders experimented with composite materials to reinforce structures against earthquakes. Some engineers argue that these beams could have acted as early seismic dampers, absorbing shock waves and preventing collapse. If the knowledge of such construction methods was widespread, the sudden disappearance of these techniques, perhaps due to the loss of master craftsmen during the crises, might have left cities vulnerable to the very earthquakes that struck them. The eruption of Thera may have forced a diaspora of skilled artisans, engineers, and scholars across the Mediterranean. These refugees could have carried advanced knowledge of shipbuilding, metallurgy, and architecture, seeding the capabilities that later enabled the Sea Peoples to navigate and raid with unprecedented efficiency. Yet, when famine and disease later struck, the loss of these experts could have created a vacuum of innovation, accelerating the decline of bronze production. Even more tantalizing is the discovery of a series of intricately patterned copper plates found in burial sites across the Levant. While their purpose remains debated, some fringe researchers suggest they could represent early forms of electrical conductors, perhaps used in ritual or signaling devices. Though speculative, the mere existence of such artifacts invites the question: could there have been a forgotten branch of knowledge, perhaps related to magnetism or early electrochemistry, that was lost in the chaos, leaving a gap that modern scholars have yet to fill? When the dust settled after the collapse, a new world began to emerge from the ashes. In Egypt, the New Kingdom entered a period of relative weakness, known as the Third Intermediate Period, marked by fragmented rule and reduced foreign influence. The Hittite Empire never recovered, its former territories fragmented into Neo-Hittite city-states that clung to the memory of a once great kingdom. In the Aegean, the Mycenaean palaces gave way to smaller, less centralized communities, setting the stage for the eventual rise of the Greek city-states in the Archaic period. The Levantine coast saw the emergence of new powers, such as the Philistines. Some scholars argue that they were among the Sea Peoples who settled in the region and integrated into the local culture. Archaeological evidence shows a marked shift in material culture after 1100 BCE. Pottery styles become simpler, bronze production declines, and iron, though still rare, begins to appear in small quantities, hinting at the dawn of the Iron Age. Some investigators believe that the scarcity of tin forced societies to experiment with iron, inadvertently sparking a technological revolution that would later reshape the ancient world. The Sea Peoples remain an enigma. Were they a single ethnic group, a coalition of displaced peoples, or a mythologized construct used by ancient scribes to explain a complex series of migrations? Recent DNA analyses of skeletal remains from Philistine burial sites in Ashkelon reveal a mixture of European and Near Eastern ancestry, suggesting a heterogeneous population that could support the coalition theory. Yet, the exact origins of groups like the Peleset, often identified with the Philistines, remain contested, leaving room for speculation. Environmental theories also invite ongoing research. Ice core data from Greenland and Antarctica continue to be refined, offering higher resolution timelines that may pinpoint the exact years of volcanic eruptions and climate anomalies. Some climate scientists propose that a megadrought spanning the eastern Mediterranean could have been triggered by a shift in the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, a hypothesis that would link the Bronze Age collapse to broader, global climate patterns. Perhaps the most compelling modern implication lies in the cautionary tale these ancient events present. If a combination of environmental stress, technological loss, and mass migration can topple empires in a matter of decades, what does that say about our own interconnected world facing climate change, resource depletion, and geopolitical upheaval? Analysts draw parallels between the Bronze Age trade networks and today's global supply chains, warning that a disruption in one region could cascade across the planet. Just as the collapse of tin sources may have crippled bronze production centuries ago, new technologies promise fresh clues. LODAR scanning of hidden valleys in Anatolia is revealing previously unknown settlement patterns that may map the roots of migrating peoples. High-resolution satellite imagery of submerged coastal sites along the Levantine shore is exposing ancient harbors now lost beneath rising seas. Advanced isotopic analysis of ancient metals is refining our understanding of where copper and tin traveled, and whether sudden interruptions correspond with the timeline of the Sea People's raids. Each discovery adds a new piece to the puzzle, yet the picture remains tantalizingly incomplete as we stand on the brink of potential breakthroughs. The question lingers: will we ever fully uncover the truth behind the sudden silence that fell over the great Bronze Age civilizations? Or will the answer forever remain a whisper carried on the winds of the ancient seas, heard only by those willing to listen between the lines of stone, clay, and ash?